You are listening to the Digital Parent Podcast with your host, Ced Lewis.
Hey parents, welcome to another episode of the Digital Parent Podcast. We're delighted to have back on the show our good friend Denise DeRosa to discuss her new Huffington Post article, Social Media Strategies for Student Athletes. On this show, we discuss how student athletes can enhance their reputation online in order to get accepted or recruited to the top schools in the nation, and how not to post or share information that can hurt their personal brand. So sit back and enjoy this episode, but before we get into it, a quick word from our sponsor, mSpy. Parents, mSpy is the ultimate monitoring tool for all devices. mSpy remotely tracks GPS locations, calls, texts, messages, WhatsApp, Snapchat, web browsers, pictures, and much more. With mSpy, you can also restrict unwanted calls, block websites, or even block apps. Go to mspy.com for more information. Hey, Denise, welcome back to the Digital Parent Podcast. We are so happy to have you. You are our first guest to be back, so we're so happy and excited about that.
Oh, wow. I'm excited about that.
Well, Denise, we want to have you on because, school has started back for most kids. Most kids have had at least a month, maybe 2 months, depending on where you live, to be in school, to be reacquainted with old friends, to gather new friends. So we know now is the time to talk about social media and social media strategies for kids. So we want to just kind of ask you, what are some of the good social media strategies that students need to have since they're back in school now?
Okay. Well, I think as kids get into high school, they need to start to think of social media as a way for them to capitalize on ways to connect with future colleges and employers, and think about social media to advance their success. So, we don't want to always be talking to kids about what they should be hiding, but the reverse, because we know colleges are going to be looking on social media to sort of inquire about a prospective student. Same with employers. So when you know that, then you have to think about how can I use that to my advantage. So it's about learning how to share and save and post your best work, your academic achievements, your personal achievements. If you're a student athlete, maybe some game highlights, showcase how you are a team player, for example, if you're on a team. You think about social media as a way to employ it to your advantage.
And I think you're right. I think you have to become like a PR person if you're the kid or if you're the parent, and you have to start collecting the highlights of your kid's life, whether it's at home, in the community, whatever they're doing is positive. You want to highlight that on social media so that their future employer, their future college recruitment officer can see that information.
Exactly. And, I know that parents get upset and they think, well, is everything about resume building? And it is a little bit, but it's not 100% about resume building. I think, one thing is just showcase your personality and showcase what makes you special, what makes you somebody who you want to be around. Because I think sometimes colleges are just looking would this person fit in with our culture here at school? So if you have a very positive personality, if you really enjoy being around friends, if you're curious, if you're a problem solver, kind of any of these kind of things, any ways to showcase the best of your personality. So yes, achievements is a part of that, but another part of that is just someone who's kind of fun-loving, fun to be around, a generally positive person who showcases the values that the colleges are looking for.
And I think that's such an excellent point, Denise, because I don't want parents to get the impression that you can just put up a good Facebook page or a good social media page and post videos, because I think you're 100% right. What recruiters are looking for is your kid's personality, and that goes back to your digital footprint. They want to see what are you posting online, what are you liking online, what are you sharing online, what are you tweeting online, because that's going to give them the real snapshot of who you really are. So when we talk about, colleges and your social media strategy, I think it's really critical for students and parents to make sure it's very comprehensive. They're looking at everything that you do everywhere on the internet, not just a particular page or a particular site that you're putting this information on.
Exactly. So, and you might use different social media platforms to present different aspects of your personality. So it's kind of like you want to have a social media game plan and think about your personal branding. So make sure your best qualities and creations are a part of your online messaging. And everything you post and share becomes a part of your brand. So like you said, even stuff online that you haven't posted or created yourself, but that you like and that you share, that does tell a part of your story. What are the kinds of things that you're interested in? So, for example, if you are somebody who might want to go down like an entrepreneurial path, then, it's a good idea for you to search out something in the news about entrepreneurs or maybe a business that you find really interesting. And you can just share, let's say, that article, post your comments on that article, just so that you have you're showcasing what it is that you're interested in, and you have something that you can point to, or that colleges can kind of look at and be like, oh, I see, this is a student who might be interested in the law, and then here you'll see some instances of where you may have commented or used something that you've seen in the media to be able to make an intelligent comment.
Denise, what do you think about these websites where you can, join these websites and create your own About Me pages? Do you think that's a good strategy for kids who are trying to promote themselves to colleges and recruiters?
Yeah, I wonder if that, I think, yes, it is something that you could do. That might be something maybe even more for college students than for high school students. I mean, I certainly think high school students could be doing that, but they might just want to, at this point, depending on how much they have to showcase, to just using the current social media accounts. But it is a good way, like if you have, for example, an About Me page, that you can link up all the your public social media profiles that you want. And that's another point, too, I think, is that obviously you have to be conscious that anything that you're sharing digitally could potentially be public, but you could also think about maybe which social media platforms you want to be your more public presentation and which, maybe you want to keep private for interactions with just friends. So maybe, for example, you want to use your Snapchat just to exchange like funny and goofy videos with friends. So it's just a way to think about, okay, how am I going to use these different platforms and what's the best platform to get out my message?
Now, let's say right there with Snapchat. So we're talking about a social media strategy with Snapchat as far as increasing your brand. Do you think kids should use the story feature more to kind of tell their story in order to promote themselves?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly think that is an interesting way for them to do it. And I mean, honestly, what kids are doing, it's certainly more creative than, than how a lot of adults are using it. I mean, they're really smart and way ahead of us on this. So I think it's about using whichever platform kind of speaks to you the most and is able to represent yourself the best. So if you're talking about maybe somebody who's very visual or creative or artistic, maybe they want to use Instagram as a way to showcase maybe if they're a photographer or something. And then Snapchat, that could be something interesting, let's say, for example, for a student athlete. So somebody who might have two-a-days. And maybe they do like a day in the life of what it is to be involved in a sport. And so here I am this morning, and here's a snap of me, getting my first workout in. And here's a snap of me just, getting ready to go to my first class. And then here's a snap at the end of the day when I'm going back to the workout room. And then, just getting to sit down to finally get homework started at a certain time. So maybe it's just a way to showcase what a day in the life is like. I mean, that could be interesting
That's an excellent point, because I think what you're touching on is their passion for whatever they're doing, whatever activity they're doing. And I think it's the same as Instagram, because Instagram is kind of like stolen the whole story thing from Snapchat. But if you're passionate about whatever you're doing, if it's boxing, if it's playing the piano, you want to show those stories and show the hard work that you put in, day to day, to kind of, have some kind of chronological snapshot of what you do.
Yeah. I think that's, just there's so many opportunities for them. I mean, if you think back to when, like when I was younger, and I just so wanted to be able to, I really wanted to work at MTV. That was what I wanted when I got out of college. And it was so difficult just to get a single connection, just somebody that I could reach out to say, to get in front of somebody. And nowadays, I think there's so many ways for students to, and college students to connect with these businesses that they might be interested in, or these organizations that they might be interested. You can just start by following them on Twitter, or by following somebody who's a leader in that community or for that organization, or somebody who speaks a lot on topics in an industry that you're interested in. So there's ways for them to connect and sort of, possibly get that maybe electronic foot in the door that we didn't have when we were growing up. So I really think students need to think of social media more as an opportunity than as something they need to be hiding.
So let me ask you a question, Denise, because you have a lot of past experience working for MTV. If a kid wants to be on MTV today, how would they use social media to get there? What would be their strategy to get on MTV if that's their goal? Say they're a 9th grader, 8th grader. That's what they want to do once they get out of college or get out of high school. What strategy could they use on social media to make that goal come true?
Yeah, well, I think there's so many different aspects of whatever part of entertainment, let's say, you wanted to be involved in. So if it's the business aspect of entertainment, I think it's about kind of, I think first you just want to follow and, follow these companies online on their whatever accounts they might have. If they have Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, even LinkedIn, for example, just to kind of get an overall feel for maybe what part of the business you'd want to be interested in first. So that's what I would say first, is somebody who's younger. I wasn't interested in being in front of the camera. I think that's a whole different kind of ball game. But for somebody who might be interested in sort of the marketing aspects or the business aspects or production, getting involved in that line of work in your school, and then being able to present that in some way online.
Those are good points. I want to go back to what you just said a minute ago about using Twitter to follow thought leaders and influencers, because I know sometimes Twitter is one of like the hardest social media channels for parents, because it's kind of twerky. You got to kind of know how to tweet and know how to use that software. But it's probably one of the quickest response rates of any social media platform out there. If you tweet somebody, usually people will tweet you back or send you a message back. Kind of talk about how easy it is for students to reach out to these influencers on Twitter.
Yeah, Twitter is the easiest to find a way to connect with people, because a lot of other platforms, like, for example, on LinkedIn, you have, that connection needs to be accepted, unless you're just following somebody who's a leader who's an influencer, let's say, on LinkedIn, when you can just follow them. But to connect with someone, it is a lot easier on Twitter, because you can just, if you find that handle, then there's a way for you to tweet at them. And yes, they will very likely tweet you back. And then at the very least, then you can find other people who are in that space as well and tweet to them. I do think Twitter is kind of the easiest and the fastest, first of all, to follow along. And then to get that connection too, because you can just, get that once you've gotten that handle, whether you're tweeting a message to them specifically or just kind of giving a shout out, it's a great way to find that initial connection. And it may not happen like the very first time that you do it, but But Twitter is one of the easier ones, I think, to make those connections.
I think another thing with Twitter that goes very underutilized is using Twitter lists, because you can like target the people within whatever niche or industry that you're passionate about and create a Twitter list of all of those individuals, and you have a list with all their tweets so that you can go to very quickly.
Yeah, no, that's true. And if you can get yourself on those lists, it's very, it's just a very powerful connecting tool. I think that Twitter really should be utilized for students for that purpose more than, I don't know how much kids are on Twitter now. I feel like they've really migrated a lot to Instagram and then especially Snapchat because they're fun and it's a way to connect with their friends and it's very visual. But Twitter, I think, is really the one that you can use to connect with potential employers and colleges.
Yeah, there's interesting stats on Twitter. I think the last study is that majority of kids who are on Twitter are African-American teens. For some reason, they've migrated to Twitter. I think that has a lot to do with hip-hop music, because most of you hip-hop artists are on Twitter and they release their CDs, EPs, mixtapes. They do those downloads instantly, so it's a very quick way for kids to get music for free. But, it still is a group of kids who are still on the platform. Yeah.
And I think, for example, if we were going to talk about student athletes, let's say, so if you're a student athlete in high school and trying to figure out a way to get yourself noticed or to learn how to use these social media to your advantage, Twitter is a great way for you to connect with other athletes that you may admire, including, if you're looking at colleges, maybe the athletes that are at that school now and see how they're using the platform. For college athletes, I think, they have the benefit and possibly the curse of eyes being on you. So when you have that, you really want to make sure that you are using these platforms in a positive way to express yourself and to connect. And one thing you can do is, follow these athletes that you admire and that inspire you. And you can see, first of all, how they are using social media and learn from them how to use it in an effective way. But also, find a way to kind of, point out where you are alike, So you could say, I see how hard you're working on that and compliment them and encourage them and, shout out that you're a fan.
Yeah, on the opposite side of that, with the athletes, what is a way for student athletes to protect their brand? Because most student athletes are some of the most popular kids at school. So they have a lot of positive praise, but they also have a lot of haters as well that may engage in cyberbullying, tweet things that are not true. What are some ways those student athletes can kind of protect their image so it doesn't impact them going to college?
Yeah, I know that's very difficult because that is sort of the blessing and the curse, right? So the good part of it is that you do have eyes on you, and so there is a way for you to make those connections and take advantage of like for a lot of ways, future employers or future teams that might be looking at you. So that's a great time for you to start to connect with them. But you're right, there is that risk of those that would be trying to attack or say something negative about a player who maybe didn't have like the greatest game or something. I think number one is that keep your interactions positive. So always kind of be that, that representation of how your team wants you to react in a public environment. So, you don't want to engage in sort of that negativity with whether it's fans of the opposing team or something. You don't need to get dragged into that. And then just, continue to present yourself as we really tried hard this week. Next, we're going to, refocus and, do our best next week or whatever it is to kind of continue sort of the positivity.
You know what? That's a good point, because I think there's a couple things that we need to point out that are really important. One is that if you're a student athlete, you never want to trash your coach, because that gives a signal to colleges and also future employers that if you're if you're trashing your teammates and your coach, then you're trash your boss and your coworkers.
Right, exactly. So you always want to be someone who is supportive of your teammate, someone who respects their coach and the coach's decisions in certain situations. You want to be someone who's encouraging to your teammates, who is very positive. Being on a team is it can be difficult. Sometimes maybe a play you made helped the team to win, and sometimes maybe a play you missed was part of the cause for the team losing. So you always want to kind of go back and say, this was a team effort. We decided this together. This was our best shot here. It didn't go the way we wanted. But yes, always be respectful of your coach and encouraging and supportive of your teammates.
And I think another thing, especially with male athletes, they feel, very, hyper masculine, and they don't see the need to block people. But I think, we need to get the message that it's okay if you have haters that are sending you inappropriate comments, pictures, or whatever. It's okay to block those folks, not to just ignore them, because you don't want those things to pop up in your feeds and in your social media streams. Yeah,
exactly. So, if you're getting sort of some of that, whether it's like some kind of sexting that is happening or some way that you're attracting, you're attracting some people on social media that maybe you don't need to be interacting with. Yes, absolutely. You can block them. And now the way Instagram is set up, I think there's filters that you can set up right now so that you can remove a lot of that, which is, I think just a great move forward for Instagram. But yeah, exactly. For student athletes to think about this as a tool for engagement. So you want to be thankful to your fans, supportive of your team, engaging with your community, maybe getting people excited for an upcoming game, sharing the best of your personality. And then when there's some of that negativity coming at you, making the decision that, I'm not going to be dragged down this rabbit hole and get into sort of this negative fight with fans from another team or fans who are upset at a play that I made, and instead always be thinking about putting your best foot forward.
So let me ask you another question, Denise, since you have so much experience when it comes to production and producing behind the scenes. When we watch these sports channels like ESPN, Fox Sports, we always see these feel-good stories of athletes or what happened in their past or what happened with their parents, things of that nature. Is there a way for those same athletes to tell their own story, like in high school, through social media, to get that out there before they even get to college, as a way to kind of enhance, their image and what they've been through, so it'd be easy for them to get a scholarship?
Yeah, I think that, that's a great idea. And it's something that, right, you don't want to be pegged in a way that doesn't accurately represent who you are, which I'm sure has happened before in the past. I mean, we've seen that before where, athletes have been sort of branded in a certain way. But with social media, and if you were to, like you said, use an About Me page, but even if you aren't, if you're just going to be using Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, Facebook, whatever social media platforms that you prefer, this is your chance to present, your personality and to kind of solidify your personal brand before it's done for you. So you can put all that out there ahead of time.
And the reason I say that, Denise, I'm thinking about a couple athletes that I've known, for example, who came from really bad backgrounds. These may have been kids who were affiliated with gang life, but they were never actually an active gang member, meaning they never, did any type of crimes, things of that nature, but they had to join for safety reasons. So you don't want a college to judge you for, having those affiliations and you not getting the opportunity. maybe for that type of kid, the best opportunity for that person is to get their story out and say, hey, this is why I was a member of X, Y, and Z, and this is why I went this path. But instead of letting the media to dictate that narrative.
Right. And it's more about, this is what I had to overcome. And this was my experience. And this is sort of the added burden that I had in just preparing myself for this moment. So, I had to learn how to adapt to the situation that I was given and still, and still grow into the athlete that I am now. So I think it's about sort of overcoming some of the challenges and how you were able to overcome really what was, it was your lot in life, right? So it's, like you said, like you don't really have a choice. It is for safety, or it is just the way that the neighborhood is where you are and where you were. So, get that message out there and say, this is what I want to, let's say, get away from. And then maybe even at some point, turn back and say, this is how I'd like to help the 20, 30 kids that are going to be coming up behind me that are given this same situation.
Then one last question about the student athletes I think is important for us to talk about is, how do the athletes get around, like certain schools have certain social media policies where they don't want you posting like any picture of the school's logo, school image, anything that, that shows the school in the background. So how do they kind of circumvent, those types of school policies that certain school districts have in place?
Yeah, I know it is kind of difficult because, right, they're sort of branded right on their jerseys,
right?
Like where they're from and stuff. I know it is kind of difficult, but first of all, I don't think that's a great strategy for schools. First of all, I think that if you have an athlete who is doing great for your school, why would you not want to showcase that and to say, like, this is kind of the best of that we have right now. And I think that schools need to be careful about their social media policies and really be thinking, like we've been talking, more about the positive ways that you can be using social media to represent your school and your whole community. But then for these students, it might just have to be a way that they need to frame something so that they're not showing, like, the entrance to the school in the background, or like maybe where you can't identify exactly what field they're on when they are performing this, at this game or at this practice. It could be difficult for that, but I don't think that's a good strategy for the schools overall. I think you want to think about how you can present the best story about your school and your students, and use social media, like we've been saying, to your advantage.
Denise, any other tips for student athletes when it comes to their social media strategy?
Yeah, I think, overall, I just think, you want to think about all the different options that are available to you and think about how you want to present your story. So, just think strategically, like, do I want to use Facebook, even though maybe, there's not a ton of teens on Facebook, but maybe do I want to use Facebook as my way to brand myself to a larger community of, potential employers and stuff. And then think about maybe which ones you might want to use if you're a college student, for example, to engage with fans, and which social media platform you might want to use to kind of keep, somewhat more private, to just be engaging with your friends. But, I think one that could be kind of interesting is, we always hear, everybody's always curious about what music athletes are listening to. That might be a fun way to incorporate musically, for example, and say, like, this is our team getting ready. This is the song that hypes us up, like before we get out there on the court or before we get out there on the field. So just think about different and creative ways that you can present the best of yourself, and show your game highlights, or show, how hard it is for you to be before and after school, to be working out, and the challenges that takes, like the time commitment that it is to be an athlete at these various levels.
Great, outstanding. Denise, tips for these student athletes and their social media strategy. Where can parents find you, and where can they locate, more of your information?
So you can find me at cyber-sensible.com. I also have a Facebook page, Cyber Sensible. So you can like Cyber Sensible on Facebook, or you can follow me on Twitter at Denise L. DeRosa. So that's my Twitter handle.
Great, Denise. Thanks, and the best of luck to you.
Thank you so much.
Hey, parents, I hope you really enjoyed that episode with Denise and I talking about social media strategies for student athletes. And a really great way for you to make sure that your child's reputation online is protected is to go to the Digital Parent Podcast homepage and download a free trial of mSpy, which will allow you to go through every social media account on your child's cell phone or on their desktop or their laptop and make sure there's not anything that's damaging that can hurt their chances of going to college. Once again, go to the digitalparentpodcast.com and download a free 7-day trial of mSpy. Until the next time.